The royal nursery was supposed to be empty. Thomas Reeves knew this with absolute certainty because he'd memorized Queen Shara's schedule down to the minute. She wouldn't return from the Galactic Council Summit for another 6 hours, which meant he had time. Time to do what he'd been planning for 3 months. Time to commit an act that would either save 2 innocent lives or get him executed for treason. Against the Jantari Empire, he stood in the center of the crystalline chamber, holding the syringe filled with illegal genetic serum, staring at the 2 sleeping forms in their environmental pods. The royal twins, born 3 months premature, born with a genetic defect that had shocked the Empire, each infant missing their left leg from the knee down, a mutation unheard of in 10,000 years of Jantari history. The palace doctors had given them 6 months to live. Maybe less. Thomas had found a cure. Stolen research, black market gene therapy, humanity's gift for medical improvisation. His hand trembled as he approached the first pod. Behind him, the nursery door hissed open. "Step away from my children." Queen Shara's voice was cold as the void between stars. "Or I will end you where you stand." Thomas turned slowly, the syringe still in his hand, and met the eyes of the most powerful being in 3 star systems. She stood in the doorway in full ceremonial armor. Plasma blade already ignited, her forearms tensed for violence. Her crystalline skin glowed with barely contained fury. And Thomas Chen Reeves, human janitor, irrelevant nobody from a conquered species, knew his life had just reached its final countdown. Before we continue, subscribe now so you don't miss more incredible stories like this one. Oh, and tell us in the comments where you are watching this video from. We always read every message. 6 months earlier, Thomas had arrived at the Imperial Palace of Jantara Prime, with nothing but a work contract, a falsified resume, and desperation eating him alive. Earth had been absorbed into the Jantari Empire 12 years ago, not conquered through war, but through simple economic inevitability. When your planet is dying and an advanced alien civilization offers technology, medicine, and survival in exchange for integration, you don't refuse. Integration meant second-class citizenship. It meant humans working menial jobs across the empire. It meant Thomas, who'd once been a pediatric nurse at Boston Children's Hospital, now mopping floors in the most magnificent structure humanity had ever witnessed. The Imperial Palace floated above Jantara Prime's capital city, a structure of living crystal that shifted colors with the planet's 3 suns, towers that pierced the clouds, gardens where plants from 1,000 worlds grew in impossible harmony. And at its heart, the royal quarters, where Queen Shara ruled an empire of 63 species with absolute authority. Thomas had taken the job for one reason: his daughter, Emma, 7 years old, dying of a genetic disorder that Earth's depleted medical system couldn't treat. But Jantari medicine could. If he could earn enough credits, if he could work his way up from janitor to medical staff, if he could somehow impossibly get access to the genetic therapies reserved for Imperial citizens. He'd been working toward that goal for 8 months. Invisible, reliable, the perfect servant. When everything changed, the announcement came through every screen, every speaker, every neural implant across the empire. Queen Shara, who had ruled for 2 centuries, was pregnant. The first royal pregnancy in 80 years. The empire erupted in celebration, festivals, ceremonies, hope. Thomas had been cleaning the medical wing when he overheard the doctors talking. Something was wrong. The pregnancy was complicated. Genetic scans showed abnormalities. When the twins were born premature, the shock rippled through the palace like a physical wave. The royal children were imperfect. In a species that had eliminated genetic defects millennia ago, the twins had been born with a mutation, missing legs. The shame was profound. The medical staff whispered about assassination, about quiet mercy killings, about protecting the royal bloodline's reputation. Queen Shara had executed the first doctor who suggested it. "My children will live," she'd declared, her voice carrying through the palace halls. "Find a cure." "I don't care what it costs." But there was no cure, not in Jantari medicine. Their genetic engineering was too specialized, too perfect. They'd lost the ability to fix complex mutations because they'd eliminated them so thoroughly. Humanity, though? Humanity was different. Humans still dealt with genetic disease, still fought cancer, disorders, mutations. Human medicine was crude by galactic standards, but it was adaptable, creative, born of necessity and desperation. Thomas knew this because he'd spent every night for 3 months researching, using his daughter's condition as a starting point. He'd found connections between Emma's disorder and the royal twins' mutation. He'd discovered underground networks of human genetic researchers who'd continued their work, despite imperial regulations. He'd stolen data, made contacts, synthesized theories, and finally, he'd acquired a serum, experimental, untested, but theoretically viable. The plan was simple: administer the treatment while the Queen was away. If it worked, he'd reveal himself, offer to treat Emma next, negotiate for his daughter's life. If it failed, well, the twins were dying anyway. He'd be executed. But Emma might still qualify for standard imperial medicine through sympathy channels. It was insane, desperate, the kind of plan only a parent watching their child die would consider. He'd waited for his moment. Today, while the Queen attended the Galactic Council summit on the far side of the system, he'd disabled the nursery monitors, a simple code exploit he'd learned from a Relathi hacker. He'd prepared the serum. He'd walked into the royal nursery carrying his mop bucket and his daughter's last hope. The twins slept in their environmental pods, tiny and fragile, their crystalline skin glowing faintly. Beautiful. Alien. But he saw. Emma in them saw every sick child he'd ever tried to save, every parent's desperate hope. He'd opened the first pod, preparing the injection site when the door opened. Now Queen Shara stood before him, radiating lethal intent, and Thomas realized he'd made a terrible miscalculation. She wasn't supposed to be back for 6 hours. "I'm not here to hurt them," Thomas said, his voice surprisingly steady. The syringe felt impossibly heavy in his hand. "I'm here to save them." "Humans don't save Gentari royalty," Shara said, her plasma blade humming. "Humans scrub floors and know their place. You have 3 seconds to explain why you're holding an unknown substance near my children before I separate your head from your body." "It's gene therapy," Thomas said quickly. "Human research. Experimental, but I've verified the protein sequencing against their genetic profiles. It could repair the developmental pathway that's causing their leg abnormalities. Give them a chance to." "You accessed royal genetic data?" Shara's skin flashed from blue to furious crimson. "That's a death sentence in itself." "I'm a trained nurse," Thomas said. "Pediatric specialist. Before Earth's integration, I know what I'm doing. Earth medicine is primitive, barbaric. Earth medicine deals with genetic imperfection every day. Your people forgot how because you engineered yourselves into a corner." Thomas knew he was dead anyway, might as well speak truth. "You're so perfect you can't fix anything that goes wrong. We're so broken we've learned to rebuild from scratch." Shara's 4 eyes narrowed. Her crystalline skin rippled with emotion, anger, curiosity, something else he couldn't identify. "My doctors studied your species' medical databases. They said human genetic therapy was too dangerous for Zentari physiology. Your doctors are wrong, and while they're being cautious, your children are dying." Thomas lowered the syringe slightly, a gesture of peace. "I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to look at the research. I have all my data compiled. Let your best geneticists verify it. If I'm wrong, execute me. But if I'm right, if you're right, you're asking me to risk my children's lives on the gamble of a human janitor. I'm asking you to risk them on a parent who understands exactly what you're feeling right now." Something shifted in Shara's expression. The plasma blade lowered slightly. "You have children?" "A daughter, Emma, 7 years old, dying of a genetic disorder. That's why I'm here. Why I took this job. I need access to imperial medicine to save her." Thomas felt tears burning his eyes. "I know what it's like to watch your child suffer and be powerless. I know what you'd do, what you'd risk, and I swear to you, on my daughter's life, this treatment could work." The silence stretched. Through the nursery's transparent walls, Thomas could see the 3 suns setting, painting the sky in colors Earth had never known. In their pods, the twins stirred, making small sounds. Shara moved closer, her blade still active but no longer directly threatening. She looked at the syringe, then at Thomas, then at her sleeping children. "Show me your research." The next 3 hours were the longest of Thomas's life. Queen Shara summoned her chief medical team, 4 of the Empire's most brilliant geneticists, and ordered them to analyze Thomas's research. She didn't execute him, didn't even imprison him, just stationed 2 massive guards beside him. while scientists, who'd spent centuries perfecting their craft-examined work, done by a desperate human with stolen data and underground contacts, Dr. Velthris, the head geneticist, was a tall Gentari male with skin that pulsed between silver and gold. He studied Thomas's data for 20 minutes in silence, his four eyes moving across holographic displays faster than Thomas could track. "This is," he started, then stopped, looked at Thomas. "Where did you get this protein sequencing?" "I synthesized it," Thomas lied smoothly. In truth, it came from a black market researcher on Europa Station. But admitting that seemed unwise. Based on comparative analysis between human and Gentari genetic architectures, impossible. The computational power required? I had 8 months and a dying daughter as motivation. You'd be surprised what humans can do when we're desperate. Dr. Velthris exchanged glances with his colleagues. "Your Majesty," he said carefully, "this is crude. The methodology is inelegant. But the underlying theory," he manipulated the holographic display, "it's sound. More than sound. It's brilliant in its simplicity. He's essentially using humanity's own genetic instability as a template for repair protocols." "Explain," Shara commanded, standing near her children's pods, one hand resting protectively on the nearest crystal surface. "Gentari genetics are too specialized. When something goes wrong, we can't improvise. But human genetics are messy, chaotic. They've retained the ability to adapt, to rebuild incorrectly formed pathways. This human has isolated those repair mechanisms and adapted them for Gentari physiology." Another scientist, Dr. Keshina, leaned forward. "The risk factor is substantial. We've never attempted human-based gene therapy on Gentari subjects, especially not infants. The rejection possibilities are lower than you think," Thomas interrupted, knowing he shouldn't speak but unable to stop himself. "I've accounted for the crystalline-based immune response. The delivery system uses nanoscale protein shells that your immune systems will read as native. By the time they recognize the human-derived elements, the repairs will already be complete." Dr. Keshna's skin flushed with anger. "You dare—" "He dares because my children are dying," Shara said quietly. Her eyes met Thomas's across the room. "And because he's correct. Our pride has made us blind. We've become so perfect we've forgotten how to be broken." She turned to her medical team. "I want honest assessments, not what you think I want to hear. What are the odds of success?" The scientists conferred quietly. Thomas's heart hammered. Outside the medical wing's windows, night had fallen. He thought of Emma, asleep in their tiny habpod in the servants' quarters. He'd left her with Mrs. Chen from Sublevel 3, telling her he had an extra shift. If he didn't return by morning, Emma would think he'd abandoned her. Dr. Velthris spoke finally. "Based on the data, 35 to 40% chance of success, similar odds of rejection causing accelerated deterioration, the remainder being null effect. And without treatment?" Shara asked. "Your children have perhaps 4 months, maybe 5. Then organ failure as the genetic cascade progresses." Shara's skin went dark, almost black, grief in Gentari physiology. She looked at her sleeping twins for a long moment. Then at Thomas. "If I allow this treatment and it works, what do you want in return?" Thomas swallowed hard. "Treatment for my daughter. The same genetic therapy that could save your children could save mine. And if it fails, if my children die from your cure, then execute me. I deserve it for failing." "That's not what I asked." Shara moved closer, her 4 eyes studying him with an intensity that felt like being dissected. "If your treatment kills my children, you still want me to save your daughter?" Thomas felt the trap closing. But he couldn't lie. "Not now." "Yes, because she's innocent. Whatever happens, Emma deserves to live, even if it means her father dies a traitor. Even then." Something profound shifted in Shara's expression. She turned to her medical team. "Prepare the treatment protocol. We begin in 1 hour. Dr. Velthris, you'll supervise, with the human. If anything goes wrong, I want to know immediately." She looked at Thomas. "And you, human, what is your name?" "Thomas Reeves, Your Majesty." "Thomas Reeves, you will assist with the treatment personally. If my children die, I want you to be the last thing they see. If they live—" She paused. "We'll discuss payment then." The next hour was organized chaos. The royal nursery was converted into an emergency medical facility. Equipment Thomas had only read about was assembled with frightening efficiency. His serum was analyzed molecule by molecule, verified, prepared for delivery. Thomas found himself working alongside Dr. Velthris, who regarded him with a mixture of suspicion and grudging respect. "You understand," the Gentari said quietly. "If this succeeds, you'll have done what our finest scientists couldn't. The implications are uncomfortable." "I don't care about implications," Thomas said, calibrating the delivery system. "I care about sick children getting better." "Yes, that much is obvious." Velthris studied him. "Your daughter, the same genetic disorder?" "Similar. Not identical, but close enough that the therapy should work if—" Thomas didn't finish the sentence. "If the twins survived, if this worked, if he wasn't executed." "What's her name?" "Emma." "Emma," Velthris repeated, testing the unfamiliar human sounds. "When this is over, regardless of outcome, I'll personally review her medical file. Perhaps there are other options we've overlooked." Thomas felt sudden, unexpected gratitude. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. We still have to keep royal infants alive through an experimental procedure." They moved the twins to the medical suite, keeping them in their environmental pods but connecting, monitoring systems that would track every cell, every protein interaction, every molecular change. Thomas had never worked with such sophisticated equipment. It made Earth's best hospitals look like medieval surgery. Queen Shara stood at the observation window watching. She'd removed her ceremonial armor, revealing the simple garments beneath, a mother, not a monarch. Her skin rippled with colors Thomas was learning to read. Blue for worry, silver for hope, dark streaks of fear running through both. "Your Majesty," Dr. Velthris said, "we're ready." "Then proceed." Thomas approached the first pod, the male twin. If he understood Gentari biology correctly, he checked the serum one final time. His hands were steady now. This was familiar territory. This was what he'd trained for. Before the world fell apart, he administered the injection with practiced precision, watching the nanoscale delivery system activate. On the holographic displays, he could see the proteins dispersing through the infant system, targeting the specific genetic pathways that had failed to develop properly. "Phase 1 complete," Dr. Keshana announced. "Beginning monitoring sequence." Thomas moved to the second pod, the female twin. Repeated the process. Same precision, same hope. When he stepped back, both infants had been treated, and now they could only wait. "How long until we know?" Shara asked, her voice barely controlled. 48 hours, Dr. Velthris said. "The genetic repairs will begin immediately. But full integration and cellular restructuring takes time. We'll know within 2 days if the therapy is working or if—" He didn't finish. 2 days. Thomas thought of Emma, of explaining where he'd been, of hoping he'd see her again. "Thomas Reeves will remain under guard in the medical wing," Shara said. "He's to have full access to monitoring equipment and medical staff. If anything changes with my children, I want him informed immediately." "Your Majesty," one of the guards protested. "He's a security risk." "He's the only reason my children might survive," Shara cut him off. "He stays." "That's an order." The hours crawled by. Thomas watched the monitors obsessively, looking for any sign of rejection, any indication the therapy was failing. Dr. Velthris stayed with him, equally transfixed by the data. "Look," the Gentari said suddenly, 6 hours in. "There. Cellular regeneration in the developmental pathways." Thomas leaned closer. The holographic display showed genetic sequences rewriting themselves, damaged pathways being repaired. It was working. Slowly, but working. "Don't celebrate yet," Dr. Keshna warned. Rejection could still occur in the next 12 hours. But Thomas couldn't help the hope flooding through him. He thought of Emma, of bringing her here, of watching her genetic disorder being repaired the same way. At hour 23, the first twin stirred in his pod and made a sound, a small, crystalline chime that Gentari infants apparently made when comfortable. At hour 31, the second twin's vital signs normalized completely. At hour 45, Dr. Velthris turned to the observation window where Queen Shara had maintained vigil and said the words Thomas had barely dared hope for. "Your Majesty, it's working. The genetic repairs are holding. At current progress, full limb development should begin within the week." Shara's skin exploded into brilliant gold, joy pure and undiluted. She didn't speak, simply pressed her hands against the observation window, tears streaming down her crystalline face. Thomas collapsed into a chair, exhausted. He'd done it. Impossibly, desperately, he'd saved 2 alien lives, and maybe, just maybe, bought his daughter a chance at survival. But as relief flooded through him, he noticed something strange. Dr. Keshina was studying a secondary display, her skin pulsing with confusion and concern. "Velthris," she said quietly, "you need to see this." "What is it?" "The genetic data. The original scans of the twins' condition." She manipulated the hologram. "I was comparing them to other genetic abnormalities in our database, trying to understand how this mutation occurred in the first place, and..." She went very still. "This wasn't natural. This was engineered." The room went silent. "Explain." Shara's voice came through the intercom, sharp as a blade. Dr. Keshna's skin went pale. "Your children's condition wasn't a random mutation, Your Majesty. Someone deliberately altered their genetics in utero. Someone wanted them born imperfect." The revelation hit like a physical blow. Queen Shara materialized in the medical wing within seconds. Her guards surrounding her, weapons drawn. Her skin flickered between black rage and crimson fury. "Show me the evidence, now." Dr. Keshna pulled up detailed genetic maps, her hands shaking. "Here, see these markers? They're not natural degradation. They're precise edits made approximately 7 months ago. During the first trimester, someone accessed the Royal Genetic Vault, obtained the fetal development codes, and made targeted alterations." "That's impossible," Shara breathed. "The vault has security protocols that would take an army to breach." "Not an army," Thomas said quietly, his mind racing through implications. "Just one person with the right access and knowledge. Someone close enough to you to know when and how to strike." He looked at the genetic data, seeing patterns that made his blood run cold. "Your Majesty, whoever did this wanted your children to be born disabled but not dead. Why?" Shara's 4 eyes locked onto him. "Continue." "Because dead children would trigger immediate investigation. But children born with a natural defect? That creates different problems." "Political problems?" Thomas stood, moving to the holographic display. "You said this was the first royal pregnancy in 80 years. How many people had access to the fertility treatments? To the genetic protocols?" "The Royal Medical Council," Shara said, her voice dangerously quiet. 12 members. All trusted advisors I've known for decades. All 12 had motive to sabotage the pregnancy. Dr. Velthris said, understanding dawning on his face. "Your Majesty, with respect, there are factions in the court who believe your reign has lasted too long, that the Empire needs younger leadership, new blood. If your children were born perfect and healthy, your dynasty would be secure for another century. But if they were born defective and dying," Thomas continued, "you'd be seen as weak. Genetic purity is everything in Gentari culture. Royal children born imperfect would undermine your authority, give your enemies ammunition for a succession challenge." Shara's skin went completely black. "They tried to kill my children to steal my throne." "Not kill," Dr. Keshina said carefully. "Discredit, make you vulnerable. The fact that the mutations were specifically chosen to be terminal, they expected the twins to die naturally within months. No murder, no investigation. Just a tragic example of even royalty being touched by genetic misfortune. Except I refused to accept their deaths," Shara said. "I demanded a cure. Threatened execution for anyone who suggested mercy killing. Which means the saboteur is now in danger of being exposed," Thomas finished. "Once your children recover, and they will recover, someone's going to wonder how a natural defect was so easily cured by human gene therapy. Someone might start looking closer at the original genetic data." Shara spun to her guards. "Seal the palace. No one enters or leaves. I want every member of the Royal Medical Council in custody within the hour. And I want..." She stopped, her expression transforming. "Thomas Reeves, you said you accessed royal genetic data. How?" Thomas felt ice in his veins. "I found vulnerabilities in the medical database security. Standard encryption exploits. Show me exactly what you accessed and how." For the next 20 minutes, Thomas walked through his digital infiltration of the royal medical systems. He'd been so focused on finding information about the twins' condition that he hadn't thought about what else might be hidden in those databases. Dr. Velthris watched the data trail, his skin pulsing with increasing alarm. "Your Majesty, these access logs. Thomas wasn't the only one who breached the genetic vault. Look, here. 3 months before the pregnancy, someone else used similar exploits to access the fetal development protocols. Can you trace the access point? Shara demanded. Yes, it came from... Velthris went very still. Terminal 7 in the Royal Medical Wing. That terminal is assigned exclusively to High Physician Dreltith. The name hung in the air like a death sentence. Dreltith was the second most powerful medical authority in the Empire. The Queen's personal physician for 90 years. A trusted advisor, a friend. Bring him to me! Shara's voice was pure ice. Now! The guards moved immediately. 30 minutes later, High Physician Dreltith entered the medical wing under armed escort. He was ancient by Gentari standards, his crystalline skin etched with age patterns, his movements slow but dignified. He looked at Queen Shara with what appeared to be genuine confusion. Your Majesty, I was told there was an emergency with the twins. The emergency is your treachery, Shara said. You sabotaged my children's genetics. You condemned them to death to undermine my rule. Deny it. Dreltith's skin flickered with shock. What? No. I would never. Your Majesty, I've served your family for a century. I delivered you when you were born. I would die before harming your children. Then explain why your terminal accessed the genetic vault 3 months before their birth, Shara said. Explain why the access logs show you downloading fetal development codes and editing them. I didn't. Dreltith looked at the displayed data, and something in his expression crumbled. Oh, ancestors. Someone used my terminal, my access codes. He looked at Shara with desperate eyes. I swear to you, I didn't do this. But I know who did. Speak. 3 months before your pregnancy was confirmed, I was treating a patient in the isolation ward. I was gone from my office for 6 hours. When I returned, I noticed my terminal had been accessed during my absence, but nothing appeared to be disturbed. I reported it to security, but they said it was a system glitch. He gestured to the data. But this proves it wasn't a glitch. Someone used my codes while I was away. Someone who knew my schedule, who had access to my office. Who? Shara's voice could have cut steel. Only 3 people have unlimited access to my office besides me. My assistant physician, Dr. Keshna, my research coordinator, and... He hesitated. Your sister, Princess Velsara. The silence that followed was absolute. Thomas watched as Queen Shara processed this information. He'd learned enough about Gentari royal politics to understand the implications. Princess Velsara was next in line for the throne, had been for 2 centuries. And now, with the birth of healthy royal twins, she'd been pushed down the succession line permanently. My sister, Shara said quietly, has been my closest advisor for 150 years. She celebrated when I announced my pregnancy. She wept when the twins were born. She wouldn't... Your Majesty, Dr. Keshna interrupted, her voice shaking. I need to show you something else. She pulled up communication logs. After we discovered the genetic sabotage, I started investigating broader data patterns. There have been 17 communications from Princess Velsara's private terminal to external networks in the past month. The encryption is sophisticated, but I was able to decode enough to understand they're coordinating something, a plan, and the timing coincides exactly with your children's declining health projections. What kind of plan? A succession challenge. She's been gathering support from noble houses, military commanders, building a coalition. The communication suggests she was waiting for... Keshna swallowed hard. For your children to die. Then she planned to call for an immediate coronation, citing your grief and instability as reasons you should step down. Shara's skin went through a cascade of colors. Black rage, crimson betrayal, silver grief. My own sister, my blood. She tried to murder my children. Not murder, technically, Thomas said quietly, drawing her attention. She tried to make them die naturally. No blood on her hands, just convenient timing. That's why the therapy working is so dangerous, not just because it saves your children, but because it exposes her plan. Which means, Dr. Velthris added grimly, she'll try again, and soon. Once she realizes the twins are recovering, she'll have to move before her conspiracy is exposed. Shara's expression hardened into something Thomas recognized from Earth's history books, the look of a leader preparing for war. Double the guard on the nursery. I want armed security on every entrance to the medical wing. And someone find my sister. I want her in front of me within... An explosion shook the palace. Alarm screamed. Emergency lights activated. Through the medical wing's windows, Thomas saw flames erupting from the eastern tower, the royal quarters, where Princess Velsera's chambers were located. "Report!" Shara shouted into her communicator. "Your Majesty, we have multiple explosions across the palace. The eastern tower, the council chambers, the voice cut off in static. Another explosion, closer this time." The medical wing shuddered. "They're targeting us," Dr. Keshina said. "They know the twins are here." Shara's eyes found Thomas. "Can the twins be moved safely?" "Not yet. They're still in critical stages of genetic repair. Moving them could kill them. Then we defend this position." She turned to her guards. "Full lockdown. No one gets through to this wing. I don't care if it's my sister or the entire royal guard. No one." But Thomas was staring at the medical displays, his blood running cold. "Your Majesty, look at the monitoring systems. Someone's trying to access them remotely. They're not just trying to reach the twins. Physically, they're trying to shut down the environmental pods remotely." Dr. Velthris cursed in Gentari. "If the pods lose power for more than 90 seconds while the twins are still in genetic flux, they die," Thomas finished. "We need to create a manual override. Cut the pods off from the network entirely. That's a 10-minute process. Then we have 10 minutes. Thomas was already moving, pulling tools from the medical kit. "Dr. Velthris, help me." Keshna tracked that remote access attempt. "Find out where it's coming from." They worked frantically while the palace shook with explosions. Thomas's hands moved with desperate precision, disconnecting network cables, rerouting power systems to local batteries. His nurse training had never included alien medical equipment, but desperation made him fast. 7 minutes in, another massive explosion rocked the wing. The ceiling cracked. Crystalline fragments rained down. "Almost there," Thomas gasped, connecting the final power bypass. "Just need to—" The doors to the medical wing exploded inward. Princess Velsera entered, flanked by 20 armored soldiers. She looked almost exactly like her sister. Same crystalline skin, same four-armed physique, but where Shara's skin glowed with warm colors, Velsera's was cold silver and blue. "Hello, sister," Velsera said, raising a plasma weapon. "I'm here for your children." Queen Shara stepped forward, positioning herself between her sister and the twins' medical pods. Her personal guards formed a defensive line, weapons raised, but they were outnumbered 2-1. Thomas continued working on the manual override, his hands shaking but steady, knowing that if he stopped, the twins would die regardless of who won this fight. "Velsera," Shara said, her voice carrying centuries of shared history, of love now turning to ash. "Please don't do this. They're children. Innocent children." "They're obstacles," Velsera replied, her tone conversational, almost friendly. "I've waited 200 years for my turn, Shara. 2 centuries of standing in your shadow, watching you make decision after decision that weakens our empire, and then you announce a pregnancy. As if you deserve more time, as if your legacy needs to be extended. So you tried to kill my babies." Shara's skin flashed black with rage. "Your own blood. I tried to solve a problem efficiently." Velsera moved closer, her soldiers spreading out, surrounding the medical team. The genetic sabotage was elegant. No murder, no scandal, just a tragic natural occurrence that would have left you broken and vulnerable. And then, when you were drowning in grief, I would have stepped in, taken the throne, restored Gentari strength. She gestured to Thomas. "But you had to bring in this human. This primitive. And now my careful plan is unraveling." Thomas finished the final connection. The pod switched to local power, completely isolated from the network, safe, for now. He stood slowly, positioning himself near Dr. Velthris, acutely aware he was a soft human in a room, full of crystalline aliens with advanced weapons. "The plan already unraveled," Shara said. "We have evidence. Your communications, your access to the genetic vault. Every noble house you contacted for support will turn against you once this becomes public. Only if it becomes public." Velsera raised her weapon. "But if everyone in this room dies, the queen, her damaged children, the medical team, who discovered the evidence, then the story becomes something different. A terrorist attack, human insurgents who infiltrated the palace, the human janitor who poisoned the royal twins with genetic treatments that caused catastrophic failure." She smiled coldly. "I'll have witnesses. I'll have evidence. And I'll have the throne." "Oh, You won't have legitimacy, Dr. Velthris said quietly, stepping forward despite the danger. I've already transmitted our findings to the Science Council, encrypted, verified. Even if we die, the truth will come out. Velsara's skin flickered with annoyance. Then I'll deal with the Science Council. The throne is worth any price. Even your soul? Shara asked. Even becoming a monster? You don't understand, Velsara said, and for the first time, Thomas heard genuine emotion in her voice. Pain, resentment, festering for centuries. I watched you become queen at 50 years old. So young, so brilliant. Everyone loved you. And I stood beside you. Always second, always supporting, always waiting for my moment. Do you know what that does to a person? 200 years of being almost enough. Almost worthy. Almost seen. I saw you, Shara said, her voice breaking. You were never second to me. You were my sister, my best friend, my advisor. I trusted you with everything. You trusted me with everything except power. Velsara's weapon remained steady. And now you have what I'll never have. Children. A legacy. Your bloodline continuing while mine ends with me. Tell me, sister, why do you deserve that and I don't? In the environmental pods behind them, one of the twins stirred, making that small crystalline chime sound. Both sisters' attention flickered toward the noise. Thomas saw the moment, the tiny crack in Velsara's composure. She was looking at the babies with something that wasn't quite hatred. Something more complex. Longing, maybe. Loss. Because you chose power over love, Thomas said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. I'm nobody. A human janitor. I have no right to speak here. But I'm also a parent and I understand something you don't. He gestured to the twins. Those children aren't obstacles or political problems. They're people. Innocent lives. And you're ready to murder them. Because you've convinced yourself that power is the same thing as being seen. Silence, human, Velsara snapped. You know nothing about... I know about being desperate, Thomas interrupted, his voice strengthening. I know what it's like to watch someone you love suffer and feel powerless. My daughter is dying just like your sister's children were. And I risked everything, my life, my freedom, to try to save them. Not for power, not for recognition, because that's what you do when you actually love someone. You dare lecture me on... Yes, I dare. Thomas felt anger rising, breaking through his fear. Because I've met you before. Different species, same disease. On Earth, we had parents who hurt their children to get attention. Who made their kids sick so they could be the hero who saved them. Who destroyed innocent lives because their own pain was all they could. See? He pointed at the twins. Your sister's children were never your enemies. Your jealousy was. Your sister wasn't keeping you from power, your own inability to see past it was. Velsara's weapon swung toward Thomas. I could kill you for that insolence. You're going to kill me anyway, Thomas said. At least let me die having told the truth. For a long moment, the tableau held, sister facing sister across a medical wing-turned battlefield. Soldiers waiting for orders. Two infants sleeping peacefully in their pods, unaware their lives hung by a thread. Then Shara did something extraordinary. She lowered her own weapon, held up her forearms in a gesture of surrender. Velsara, she said softly. You're right. What? You're right. I never understood what my coronation did to you, how it felt to be passed over. To wait so long. Shara's skin rippled with silver, sorrow, and genuine regret. I was so focused on ruling, on being a good queen, that I forgot to be a good sister. I took you for granted. Made you feel invisible. She took a step toward Velsara, ignoring the weapons. But killing my children won't heal that wound. It'll only make it deeper, please. There has to be another way. There is no other way, Velsara said, but her voice wavered. The succession is established. Your children will inherit. I'll remain the eternal princess, watching another generation rule while I fade into irrelevance. Then change it, Shara said. Help me change it. The succession laws are ancient, written for a different time. We could create a co-regency, share power, your experience and my children's future combined. A new form of rule for the empire. You'd share the throne with me. I'd share everything with you. If you'd let me. Shara extended one of her 4 hands. Please, Vel. Don't let centuries of pain destroy what we could still have. Don't let jealousy turn you into someone who murders children. Velsara stared at her sister's offered hand. Thomas could see the war happening behind her eyes. Ambition versus love. Resentment versus hope. Her weapon trembled. Behind her, one of her soldiers shifted nervously. "Your Highness? Your orders?" The moment stretched impossibly long. Thomas held his breath. Then Velsara's weapon lowered. "Just slightly. You'd truly share power? Not as a trick, but genuinely?" "Yes, on one condition." "What condition?" "You help me be a better sister." "Starting now." Shara's voice broke. "I don't know how to fix 200 years of hurt, but I want to try. If you'll let me." A single tear tracked down Velsara's crystalline face. Thomas had never seen a Gentari cry before. He wasn't sure if anyone had. "I wanted you to hurt," Velsara whispered. "I wanted you to feel what I felt, powerless, forgotten, and I'm so ashamed." "I know," Shara said gently. "I know. But it's not too late. We can—" One of Velsara's soldiers suddenly raised his weapon, aimed at Queen Shara. "Princess, step aside. We have our orders. The Queen dies today." "Stand down," Velsara shouted, spinning toward him. "I'm canceling the operation." "Everyone lower your—" The soldier fired. Time slowed to frozen moments. Thomas saw the energy bolt leave the weapon, saw it traveling toward Queen Shara, saw Velsara throw herself sideways, intercepting the shot meant for her sister. The bolt hit Velsara in the chest, throwing her backward. She collapsed, her crystalline skin cracking, fracturing, leaking luminescent fluid that was Gentari blood. "Vel!" Shara screamed, dropping to her knees beside her sister. Her guards opened fire on the traitorous soldier, cutting him down before he could shoot again. The other soldiers in Velsara's unit dropped their weapons, surrendering immediately. "Medical team." Dr. Velthris was already moving, pulling emergency equipment. "She's going into cascade failure. We need to stabilize the crystal matrix now." Thomas found himself beside them, his training overriding everything else. Damaged crystalline anatomy. Rapid fluid loss. Systemic shock. Different species, same principles: stop the bleeding, maintain vital functions, keep the patient alive. He worked alongside the Gentari doctors, his human hands awkward but effective, applying pressure to the largest fractures while they sealed internal damage. Velsara's eyes flickered open, focusing on Shara. "Sister!" Velsara gasped, luminescent blood bubbling at her lips. "I'm sorry. So sorry. I was so lost in darkness. Couldn't see." "Don't talk," Shara sobbed, holding her sister's hand. "Save your strength. We're going to fix this. Dr. Velthris can repair the damage. You'll be fine." "You have to be fine because I just got you back and I can't lose you again." "My children," Velsara whispered, her gaze sliding toward the environmental pods. "Your beautiful children. Promise me. You'll tell them about me, not the monster I became. The sister I was. Before jealousy poisoned everything." "You're going to tell them yourself," Shara insisted. "You're going to be their aunt. Help me raise them. Teach them about strength and second chances and—" "Shara." Velsara's skin was fading, the luminescence dimming. "Thank you for seeing me one last time." "No, Vel, please." "Don't leave me. I forgive you. Do you hear me? I forgive everything." But Velsara's eyes closed. Her skin went dark. And despite everything Dr. Velthris and Thomas tried, the life faded from her crystalline body. Princess Velsara, heir to the Gentari throne, died in her sister's arms, having saved the queen she'd tried to destroy. Shara's anguish filled the medical wing, a sound so raw, so utterly broken that Thomas felt tears streaming down his own face. He'd seen death before, too many times. But this, reconciliation found and lost in the same breath, was uniquely cruel. The queen held her sister's body, rocking gently, keening in grief that transcended species, transcended culture. In that moment, she wasn't a monarch. She was just someone who'd lost family. In their environmental pods, as if sensing their mother's pain, the twins began to cry. The palace spent the next 72 hours in chaos. Security teams swept every level, arresting conspirators. The noble houses that had allied with Velsara scrambled to distance themselves from the failed coup. And in the medical wing, Thomas worked around the clock to ensure the royal twins' continued recovery. He barely slept, barely ate, just monitored genetic readouts, adjusted treatment protocols, and tried not to think about the fact that he'd witnessed a princess die saving the sister she'd betrayed. Queen Shara visited the twins constantly, but she was a ghost of herself. Her skin remained dark with grief. She spoke little, just sat beside the environmental pods, watching her children's miraculous healing, mourning the sister who'd made it possible. On the third day, Dr. Velthris found Thomas reviewing data in the observation room. You should rest. You're going to collapse. I'm fine. You're not fine. None of us are. Velthris sat beside him, his crystalline skin showing patterns of exhaustion, but the twins are stable. The genetic repairs are complete. In another week, limb regeneration will begin. You've succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. Velsara succeeded, Thomas said quietly. She saved the queen, saved the twins by proxy. All I did was give them a treatment. You gave them more than that. You gave them a chance. Velthris studied him. Her Majesty wants to see you. In the royal audience chamber, she's making arrangements. Thomas's stomach clenched. Arrangements. That could mean reward or execution. And he honestly wasn't sure which he deserved. He'd violated so many protocols, broken so many laws. Yes, he'd saved royal lives, but he'd also accessed classified genetic data, bypassed security systems, and administered unauthorized treatments. He followed Velthris through the palace, still dressed in his janitor's uniform because he owned nothing else. The royal audience chamber was massive, soaring ceilings of living crystal, holographic displays showing all 63 worlds of the empire, a throne that seemed carved from starlight itself. Queen Shara sat on that throne, looking small despite her power. Her skin was still dark with mourning, but she'd resumed wearing her royal regalia, the ceremonial armor, the crown of crystal shards, the symbols of authority. Thomas Reeves, she said formally. Human, janitor, nurse, savior of royal children. Thomas knelt as protocol demanded. Your Majesty, rise, I don't need you kneeling. I need you standing. She descended from the throne, moving to stand before him. You saved my children, not just their bodies, but their future. Without your intervention, they would have died. And my sister's conspiracy might have succeeded. The Empire owes you a debt I cannot fully repay. I don't want... Let me finish. Shara's voice carried command that made him fall silent. Under normal circumstances, you'd be executed for your security violations. The laws are clear. But these are not normal circumstances. You acted not for personal gain, but out of compassion. You risked everything for children you'd never met. Because you understood suffering. She paused. And because you have a daughter who needs help. Thomas's heart hammered. Emma, is currently being treated by our finest medical team. I took the liberty of reviewing her case. The genetic disorder you mentioned. It's similar enough to my children's condition that the same therapy should work. Shara's skin flickered with silver. Hope offered as gift. If you consent, we can begin treatments immediately. Thomas felt his knees weaken. After everything, you'd save my daughter? You saved mine. It seems only fair. Shara moved closer, her four eyes studying him with an intensity that felt like being seen completely. But there's more. I'm creating a new position in the Imperial Medical System. Chief of Xenogenetic Integration. The role involves adapting medical treatments across species barriers, using humanity's unique perspective on genetic repair to help other races. The position reports directly to the throne and comes with full citizenship, housing in the upper levels, and resources to continue your research. Thomas stared at her. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a purpose, and a chance to help your species rise from second-class status. If human medicine can save Gentari royalty, imagine what else it might accomplish. She extended one hand. What do you say, Thomas Reeves? Will you help me build a better empire? He thought of Emma, of watching her grow up healthy instead of dying by inches, of humanity gaining respect through healing instead of conquest, of turning janitors' mops into medical miracles. Yes, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Yes, Your Majesty. I'll help you. Shara's skin finally showed color beyond grief, a warm gold mixing with silver. Then welcome to the Imperial Medical Service, Chief Reeves. She turned to the assembled court officials who'd been watching. Let it be known throughout the Empire, humanity has proven its value. The restrictions on human advancement are hereby lifted. Any human who demonstrates skill and dedication shall be granted opportunities for citizenship and advancement. The announcement rippled through the chamber. Thomas heard gasps, murmurs of shock. He'd just witnessed history changing. His entire species elevated because he'd been desperate, enough to try the impossible. Your Majesty, one of the court officials said carefully, this is unprecedented. The other subject species will demand equal treatment. Then give it to them, Shara said firmly. My sister's betrayal taught me something. When you keep people in the shadows, resentment grows. When you make them feel worthless, they become dangerous. But when you give them purpose, recognition, a chance to be seen, her voice caught, they become family. And family is worth any risk. Thomas felt tears streaming down his face. He thought of all the humans working menial jobs across the empire, told they were inferior, watching their children die from treatable conditions because they weren't citizens. And now, because of 2 sick alien babies and a desperate father's gamble, all of that was changing. Thank you, he whispered. For everything. Thank me by saving lives, Shara said. Starting with your daughter. Dr. Velthris will escort you to the medical bay. Where she's being treated, go be with her. Watch her heal. That's all the thanks I need. Thomas was halfway to the door when Shara called out, Thomas, one more thing. He turned. In 1 week, when my children are strong enough, I'm holding a memorial service for my sister. I want you there, and I want you to tell everyone what happened in that medical wing, how she chose love over power at the end, how she died saving me. Shara's skin darkened with grief again. I need people to remember she was more than her mistakes. Can you do that? Yes, Your Majesty, Thomas said. I can do that. He left the throne room and ran through the palace corridors, his heart soaring despite everything. Dr. Velthris led him to a private medical suite where Emma lay sleeping in a treatment pod remarkably, similar to the ones that held the royal twins. She looked so small, so fragile, but the monitors showed what Thomas desperately needed to see. Genetic repairs in progress, cell regeneration, healing. He pressed his hand against the pod's crystal surface, sobbing with relief. I'm here, baby. Daddy's here, and you're going to be okay. You're going to live. Emma's eyes fluttered open. Even through the pod's barrier, her smile made everything, the fear, the danger, the impossible choices, worth it. Hi, Daddy, she whispered through the pod's comm system. Did you have a good day at work? Thomas laughed through his tears. Yeah, sweetheart. I had a very good day at work. 6 months later, Thomas stood in the royal gardens, watching Emma play with the royal twins. The Gentari children were nearly 9 months old now, developing rapidly, their regenerated legs perfect and strong. They toddled through the crystal flowers on steady feet, chasing after Emma, who ran just slowly enough to let them think they could catch her. Again, the male twin, Prince Shalrin, chimed in his crystalline voice. Run again! You're going to wear her out, Queen Shara said, sitting beside Thomas on a bench carved from living stone. Her skin glowed with warm gold these days, the color of contentment and healing. She wore simple clothes instead of ceremonial armor, looking more like a mother than a monarch. She needs this, Thomas said, watching his daughter laugh. Emma's treatment had been successful beyond all projections. No traces of the genetic disorder remained. She ran like any healthy 7-year-old, her joy infectious. After being sick so long, she needs to remember what it's like to be a kid. They all do. Shara watched her children with profound tenderness. Sometimes I can't believe they're really healthy. Really whole. I wake up expecting to find it was all a dream. Not a dream, just good medicine and a little human stubbornness. Shara smiled. More than a little. She pulled out a data pad. I wanted to show you something. The latest reports from the Xenogenetic Integration Program. In 6 months, human medical techniques have helped treat 17 different genetic conditions across 8 species. Disorders we thought were incurable. Lives saved because of your work. Thomas read the data, feeling pride mixed with humility. His team, a mix of human, doctors and alien researchers, had accomplished in months what he'd dreamed of for years. It's not just my work. It's everyone's. True, but you started it. You proved it was possible. Shara's expression grew more serious. Which is why I need to tell you something. The Galactic Council has requested a formal presentation of your research. They want to understand how humanity's primitive medicine can accomplish what advanced civilizations cannot. That sounds political. It is political. There are forces in the galaxy that don't want humanity elevated, that see your species rise as a threat. They'll challenge your findings, question your methods, demand proof that this isn't some elaborate fraud. She looked at him intently. It won't be easy. You'll face scrutiny that would break most people. But if you succeed, humanity won't just be respected, you'll be essential. Irreplaceable. Thomas thought about what that meant. More pressure, more danger, more impossible expectations, but also more lives saved, more children running through gardens instead of dying in hospital beds. When do we leave? He asked. In 1 month, which gives you time to prepare and to say goodbye. Goodbye? Shara gestured to the children playing. The presentation is on the Galactic Council homeworld. It's a 3-month journey each way, 6 months total. Emma would be welcome to come, but she'd miss school, friends. It's your choice, but she comes with me, Thomas said immediately. We've been separated enough. Wherever I go, she goes. I thought you'd say that. Shara smiled. For what it's worth, my children will miss her. They've never had a human friend before. She's teaching them things I never could, how to be silly, how to play without dignity, how to see joy in simple things. Her skin rippled with affection. She's good for them. Good for all of us. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the children. The Empire had changed so much in 6 months. Humans working in medical facilities, serving in the sciences, some even being trained for administrative positions. The barriers were falling slowly but steadily. Thomas thought of Princess Velsera sometimes. Her sacrifice had made this possible, shown the Empire that even mistakes could be redeemed, that love could triumph over resentment. Shara had ensured her sister was remembered as a hero, not a traitor. The official story emphasized her final choice, her protection of the Queen. History had been kind to her in death. Your Majesty, Dr. Velthris approached, his skin showing urgency. Forgive the interruption, but we've received an emergency transmission from the outer territories. There's been an outbreak of neural cascade syndrome. On Viridian 7, over 10,000 infected. Local medicine is ineffective and conventional treatments aren't working. Shara stood immediately. Can we help? Velthris looked at Thomas. Chief Reeves, neural cascade syndrome has similarities to a human condition called Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. Your research notes suggested a possible treatment approach. If we adapt those protocols, we might be able to stop the outbreak, Thomas finished, his mind already racing through possibilities. He looked at Emma, still playing with the twins, so happy and healthy. Then at Shara, waiting for his decision. 10,000 lives. Another impossible challenge. Another chance to prove humanity's value. Prep the medical ship, he said, standing. I'll need my full team, all research files on prion diseases, and access to the genetic databases. How long until we can launch? 4 hours if we prioritize. Then we prioritize. Thomas looked at Shara. Your Majesty, I'll need your authorization to... You have it. Whatever you need. She touched his shoulder gently. Go save more lives, Thomas Reeves. Show the galaxy what humanity can do. Emma ran up, breathless and laughing. Daddy! Can the twins come to our habpod for dinner, please? Thomas scooped her up, hugging her tight. Not tonight, sweetheart. We have to take a trip, a really important one. There are sick people who need our help. Emma's expression grew serious. She understood duty now, had learned it from watching her father work. Okay, can we bring them medicine? Yes, we're going to bring them medicine. Good, she hugged him back. That's what we do, right? We help people feel better. That's exactly what we do. As Thomas carried his daughter toward the medical facilities, already planning treatment protocols and research approaches, he felt something he'd never expected to feel again after Earth's integration. Hope, not just for himself or Emma, but for humanity's future in the stars. They weren't conquerors. They weren't warriors. But they were healers. And sometimes healing was the greatest strength of all. Behind him, Queen Shara watched them go, her twins toddling to her side. She picked them up, holding them close, remembering the janitor who'd risked everything to save them, who'd changed an empire because he couldn't bear to watch children suffer. Your Majesty, one of her advisors said quietly, the human is becoming quite influential. Some houses worry he has too much access, too much of your trust. They suggest he might be dangerous. Shara looked at her healthy, laughing children, thought of her sister's redemption, considered all the lives saved in just 6 months. He is dangerous, she agreed, her skin glowing with warm gold. Dangerous to ignorance, to prejudice, to the idea that some lives matter more than others. She smiled. And that's exactly the kind of dangerous our empire needs. In the distance, Thomas's medical ship launched toward the stars, carrying hope and healing to worlds that needed both. The story of the janitor and the Queen was just beginning. And across the galaxy, 10,000 people waited for a miracle that human medicine, stubborn, creative, impossible human medicine was about to deliver. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe for more emotional sci-fi tales that celebrate the power of compassion, courage, and unlikely heroes. Tell us in the comments, what would you risk to save someone you love? We read every single message, and your stories inspire ours. Until next time, keep believing in the impossible